Hello and welcome everyone, I'm Madals and today I have got a best of one game. It is from the ladder and it is a bit of Zerg versus Terran. So, let's get straight into this and introduce the two players. Spawning in the top right position, we've got the red Zerg from Team Evil Geniuses. It's Machine. And his opponent spawning in the bottom left, the blue Terran under the clan tag of Fun. It is Really. Now I'm hoping this game is going to be pretty good, and I've got to try and avoid making any puns around the name Really, which could be a little bit difficult, especially with the clan tag Fun, because all I really want to say is that this could be a really fun game. Ba-dum-tsh. I hope someone laughed there. But yeah, anyway, this is going to be played out on Derelict Watcher, and this is actually quite a cool map. It's got some interesting things about it. For a Zerg player, probably the easiest perspective to look at. Taking the natural base, not too hard, relatively average size ramp. Third bases, well, you've got two choices. You can either come down here, which personally I prefer because there's no second ramp in, so if you come down to this third, all you've got to really be careful of is drops coming in. Other than that, you can easily defend this area for the entrances through. If you take the base up to the top left, it's on the low ground, it's further away, it's just awkward to defend, so it's much more likely a fourth. For a Terran player, yeah, again, this is kind of a drop situation really quite nicely, because you can come in, there's some dead space down into the entrance to the main, you can drop down on this little ledge up here. Alternatively, you can push into this third, there's a lot of dead space around there where you can get drops in really quite happily, so I think drop play could be highly effective on this map, and it's something that really should try and incorporate. For the moment though, Machine going hatch first, which is completely normal up against a Terran player. Interestingly, it's going to be a Reaper expand out of Really. That's okay on this map. There is a double cliff round, so it's not the greatest map to go for a Reaper on, but there is an escape path just down to the side to get back out into the natural base, so it's not terrible either. It's one of those things where going Reapers just gets you some early scouting information, you can harass drones a little bit, maybe waste a small amount of mining time, but probably not going to end the game right there and then. And plus, getting the gas out sooner delays your natural command center, but each to their own. It's not a bad opening, so we'll wait to see how effective it can be. There's the spawning pool for Machine. He hasn't started any gas up yet, but probably will do in the very near future, because he wants to be getting down Zergling speed. It's just so effective in shutting down things like Reapers, in shutting down things like Hellions, and just making sure that you keep the map dominance that you're going to want to rely on later on in the game. Now, really, he's getting his command center up, so very standard Reaper expand, nothing to worry about there. Probably the most normal, one of the most normal expansions currently in the metagame for a Terran player. So I like all of this, everything going really quite nice. We've got 4 Zerglings hitting the field, the 2 Queens out. The Reaper should get over just before the Queens pop, but the Zerglings will already be on the field, which means that you can kite the Zerglings for a while, you can pick off a couple of those, really just being irritating to a Zerg, but once the Queens get out, Reapers become a lot less effective. So here we go, the Zerglings are already there. They do manage to get the first hit off actually, and that is really good, and the Zerglings coming from the back are going to force this Reaper, nearly trap it, and if you do manage to trap that Reaper, it can be oh so good, but it's pulling back for the time being, just trying to kite these Zerglings. Machine doing a great job though of pulling the damaged Zerglings back to micro them effectively, and with the Queens here now, this Reaper is going to get shut down, having done very little. The Overlord for Machine has got in, seen that the command center is coming down. Doesn't know about the follow-up, but you can expect after seeing a Reaper there that you're going to be getting some Reactor Hellions on the back of it. But interestingly, a quick third CC. So this is a bit more of a risky move being played by Really. And the reason it's so good is because he went for that Reaper expand, which delayed his natural. So getting this third up quickly is going to put him in a good economical spot. All the while, he's still being quite aggressive with this Reaper, just poking in, just making sure the Zerg player can't relax too much. The first gas only being taken now for Machine, so that's quite late, and why he's gone for the double gas. And just means that he's going to be able to, well, get a good gas income coming down. Could even look at throwing down the Baneling Nest quite early. Could get a Roach Run a bit earlier on too, depending on what he thinks he's up against and how he wants to react to these Reactor Hellions. But as we can see from the Terran side of the map, very little in terms of aggressive posturing. It's all about, at the moment, getting this third CC up and defending. The Hellions are just going to be used for map control, but Creep Spread coming down here for Machine. He's got his third hatch on the way. With this double gas, he should be able to take up relatively quickly, as I said. So it's whether he wants to be going for this Zergling Baneling Mutalist style, which is quite common against Terran at the moment, or whether he's got another plan. He's going to probably wait until he gets a bit more scouting information just to assess exactly what route his opponent's going. If you're going mech, then clearly you want to get those roaches out. If it's going infantry, then Zergling Baneling Mutalisk is really strong. With the single engineering bay here, it's not a big tell yet. double engineering bay would obviously be that, okay, clearly going infantry, but just the one for the time being. Could be for missile turrets if you think your opponent's going to be grabbing up really quick mutalisks, but there's the second engineering bay, and that can be seen, I believe, by the Overlord. So that's a good little scout coming down. The Hellions are being pushed back by the Queens. The Spine Cord also coming down. Good position for this Spine, because it defends the third as well slightly, so nice little move. The creep spread just being pushed forward very fast. Good numbers of creep tumors down already too, so getting this good creep spread obviously is going to make a Terran player a bit more cautious when moving out. The one creep tumor goes down, but not a big issue when you've got so many spare. The double evolution chamber and the roach are now coming down, so it is going to be some Zergling roach mid-game compositions coming down from the Zerg, which is going to be really nice to shut down these Hellions and also any small pushes that could be coming across. Scans are going to be utilised to try and knock out these creep tumors, but good positioning of the Queens means that it's not actually going to be very successful. And that's wasting a scan, therefore, which is clearly good news for the Zerg, who's getting up a lair, going to be teching up Zergling, Baning, Mutalisk, or at least a quick Mutalisk play quite likely. You've got the 1-1 melee and armor upgrades coming down, so with that, with Lair, with 4 gases already, it does kind of signify very Zergling heavy that you're going to be trying to get out a good chunk of Mutalisks fairly early on. And especially when even though you've got the Roach Warren, this Roach Warren is always going to go down defensively, or should do, because it means that if you get a big Hellion push, you can deal with it. If it is going to be mech before you've seen the engineering base, you can deal with it, but really not probably going to see any roaches, especially now with the Baning Nest coming down, knows the composition that his opponent's going for, and really what he needs to do is just try and get his tech coming up, try to get his upgrades out, and maybe go for some kind of timing push revolving around a stim timing with those Widow Mines too. It's a really strong push around kind of the 10-12 minute mark, and with the Overlord, it's come in, it's scouted, seen that there's the starport there, but the Overlord actually is going to die. It gets stuck, can't get out of this position, and so Mr. Marine there is going to get a very lucrative kill. But here we go, Hellions are about to get surrounded by these Zerglings. Are they going to be able to get a complete surround? No, not yet. The Queen's still forcing this back. The creep spread for Machine is brilliant. I've got to say that much for him, because he's just getting so far forward with his creep already. We're only at like the 10-minute mark, and he's about a third of the way across the map. Third base is up and running here for Really. He's floated that orbital command over thus far. +1 infantry weapons completed, +1 infantry armor nearly done, and a good chunk of infantry starting to make its way down on the field. The first medevacs aren't out yet though, and that's probably the only thing missing from this composition, is you want the medevacs there with stim, with 1-1, and then you can actually have really good timing windows, which is always nice to see. But for the time being, we can see that the Zergling has been taking out this watchtower here. These watchtowers are quite interesting because they don't actually give you the vision of the center of the map, but rather just anything coming around the side. So they can be important to hold sometimes, but generally speaking, they're not super essential as they are on some other maps. I mean, if it was here, I'd say completely the opposite. But as you can see, these Hellions are taking some damage. The Zerglings are going to be able to pick them all off, and that really brings back the map control for Machine. He's going to now have complete map dominance for the near future, which is just going to allow him to be a bit more economically focused. We see his 4th base now started up. He's getting down his Spire. He's got his Infestation pick coming down too. 2-2 upgrade started. Really just teching up heavily. His drone count nearly at 80, so everything where he'll want it to be for the time being, and the first medevac only just hitting the field now for the Terran. So from a Terran perspective, this army composition not really enough to push out with yet. Needs a couple more medevacs to be effective, but Spore Crawlers already coming down to a Spore and double Spine just to the bottom position of this 3rd base. Remember earlier I said about drops being really effective here. This is just in defense against that. We've got more Spines coming down everywhere as well, and I'm actually a big fan of getting static defense against Terran players as a Zerg, because it means the drops, which can be so devastating, just don't really get the opportunity to do too much. But now Really he's starting to move forward. He's got his army just to the edge of the creep spread, which is always when you know that your opponent's going to reveal precisely where you are, and that's why you've got to be careful, because as we know, Mutalisks are coming out here. The Mutas are now picked up from that scan, so good little bit of information. The medevac on its way through is going to get spotted. It did fly straight over the hatchery. The Mutalisks are now going to get pulled back, and this is why Mutas against Terran are really strong, because you can shut down these drops so effectively. The medevac's there, but an entire medevac full of units gets taken out. There's a Marauder, but at the same time we push through the center of the map. Really, he's heading straight towards the natural and 3rd base. The Widow Mine's trying to get in a nice position. Baneling's detonating on some of those Widow Mines. but only one detonates so far. These Zerglings have got to be a little bit more cautious. More detonations are going off, but here comes the big flood of units. Doesn't realise there's more Widow Mines there. Huge connections with those Widow Mines, and that means a lot of those Zerglings are taken out. The Mutas are trying to go head-to-head with these Marines, but with Stim and the 1-1 upgrades, they are going to fare a lot better. A couple of Overseers getting taken out now. Machine in a little bit of problems. He's getting 48 more Zerglings behind this, and his Muta count just isn't significant enough to be able to push straight into this. He's only got 8 there, and these Marines, they're just going to start destroying everything. The Zerglings going to try and get some surface area, but good positioning on all of these Marines. They're just going to be able to trade relatively cost effectively, but with the flooding in of units now, this should get cleaned up. How much damage was done? Well, actually, only 1 worker was taken out there, but if we look at the resources lost, Machine losing about 700 more, but mainly that has come from Zerglings. There was a few Mutalisks going down, but not a tremendous number. But this is the problem. Wave 2 of this push already up and running, ready to start moving across the map. We do have this bottom right base taken already for Machine, so he's up to 5 bases to the 3 of Really, which long term does put him in a good spot. He's got a good amount of minerals in the bank, relatively large amount of gas, but needs to be spending that relatively fast, because otherwise he's going to have bad times when Really, who's got a significant supply advantage, does come and knocking at his door. And we can see that this force actually relatively scary. Both players do have the 2-2 upgrades, but with the Mutalisks in there, if the Banelings don't get good connections, if the Widow Mines are utilised effectively by the Terran, then actually this can be really difficult for Machine to hold off. But he's rolling in with those Banelings. Detonations goes off. Big Baneling hits coming down everywhere. And actually most of these Marines now easily getting taken out. So this is looking all very good for Machine at the moment. And he should be able to hold this push off. There's only a handful of Marines remaining. And yeah, with what is 11 Marines, he shouldn't have much problems holding this off, even with the medevacs there. But the problem is there's a drop also coming up to this top right base. We can see 9 workers have been killed, and this is where problems really start coming in, because now Machine has got to try and defend 2 places at once with not really that many units. The Zerglings are coming out. They're going to try and really flood through this, but if he loses both of these hatcheries, he's going to be in problems. He should be able to save this bottom right one, but the top left one certainly will be taken down. The bottom right one even getting taken out too, just in the nick of time. The final Marine gets the shot off before dying, and now Machine, he's got this base down the bottom right, but it's about to get discovered by these 2 medevacs. This is looking really good for Really, and if he's able to knock out this hatchery, which in all honesty he should be able to, then he's going to be in a brilliant spot, because he's going to put a Zerg player back down to just 2 bases. We see the Zerglings are on their way down and should be able to save this, but the drones are so far out of position if they do try and come down here that, to be honest, I think Really should be able to take it out relatively soon. He's taking a 4th base at the same time as well. The Zerglings have discovered it, but will take a long time to kill it. At the same time, Really, he's nearly maxed out. He's pushing across the map with another wave of pushes, and the Widow Mines, they're still here. They're still going to be doing quite a lot. We can see that yet more damage is going to be going down. These drones are just all transferring, and those drones are just such an easy target at the moment while they are transferring through. Machine going to lose quite a few workers here. The Zerglings trying to get themselves in a nice position, but the Widow Mines getting some nice connections at the moment. A small group of Marines are getting caught out of position there, and the Zerglings, they are trying to deal with this, but there's just not enough of them for the time being. Banelings, though, they're going to really help with this. Can the splitting get off good enough? Well, this is good splitting for the moment from Really. He's really splitting those Marines effectively, and the Banelings are just not able to be effective, and that means the Marines will stay up, a good chunk of them still there, but Ultralisks are already on their way down, and these Ultras, they will be able to help here, but unfortunately they don't have the support of any infestors, so with no fungal growth to lock the Marines into place, it could be a bit harder. That 3rd knocked out once more while it was trying to get rebuilt. This bottom right hand base does have a couple of drones coming to it, but not that many, and that's the problem really, because look at the worker count. 57 drones to 92 SCVs. Income wise, this is so far in Really's favour, and I think with that, Machine realised he wasn't going to make it work, so GG's out. Well, that was a fun little best of 1 game. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, make sure that you liked the video, leave a cool comment, and of course subscribe, and I'll catch each and every one of you tomorrow for yet another new cast. Thanks for watching. I'm Madals. Bye for now.